Let's be clear. Any potential invasion of Taiwan would be a monumental task, a seaborne assault of historic difficulty. So how does a much smaller nation even begin to prepare for that? Well, they have a plan, a strategy designed to turn the waters and beaches of Taiwan into a lethal killing zone.
And listen, that is not an exaggeration. The sheer incredible difficulty of launching an invasion from the sea is the starting point for Taiwan's entire defensive strategy. It's a massive gamble for any attacker, and that one simple fact frames everything we're about to talk about.
Okay, so before we even get into the missiles and the tactics, you gotta understand something crucial. Taiwan's first line of defense, it wasn't built by anyone. It's just geography.
I mean, just try to picture it. You're trying to move a massive army across 100 miles of open water. And this isn't some calm lake, right? For most of the year, the winds and waves in the Taiwan Strait are just brutal. And hey, let's say you do make it across. What do you find? Mostly rugged, steep mountains. There are only a handful of beaches that are even wide enough or flat enough for a big landing. So right from the get-go, nature has given Taiwan some serious home field advantage.
So, you might be wondering, how did Taiwan used to handle this problem? Well, for decades, the idea was to try and match strength for strength, a conventional fight. But, and this is a big but, that whole strategy has a massive, potentially fatal flaw when you're the smaller guy.
And look, here's the brutal truth. Trying to go toe-to-toe in a conventional, symmetrical war, it's a losing battle for Taiwan. The numbers just don't add up. China's military, its budget, its sheer number of ships and planes, it's just in a different league. So a new game plan isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely necessary to survive.
Yeah, so the old way was all about the expensive toys, right? The fancy F-16s, the big naval ships, the heavy tanks. But here's the thing they all have in common, a huge weakness. They all operate from very specific, very well-known places. Airfields, naval bases, they're basically giant glowing hit-me signs for that first wave of missiles.
And that right there is the heart of the problem. Seriously, what good is your billion-dollar jet if its runway is a crater in the first half hour of a fight? All these amazing, pricey pieces of gear could be taken off the board before they even get into the game.
Okay, so this is where everything changes. It's a totally different way of thinking. The idea is, if you can't be the lion, then be the porcupine. Small, defensive, and a real pain to mess with.
So the point of this strategy isn't to win a war in the old-fashioned sense. Nope. The goal is to make the cost of an invasion so incredibly, painfully high for the attacker, in ships, in lives, that they just look at it and say, no way, not worth it. It's all about stopping a war before it starts, by promising a world of hurt.
And this quote from a former top admiral in Taiwan just nails it. The whole strategy is based on a large number of small things. Forget a few big, expensive targets that are easy to find. The new idea is to have tons of small, cheap, and hidden weapons everywhere.
And here's the genius of it. You've got tons of these things, they're small, and they're mobile, which means the enemy can't find them to blow them up in that first attack. They're cheap, so you can buy a whole lot of them, and the most important part? They pack a serious punch and are built to survive that initial onslaught. It's a defense designed to take a punch and keep on fighting.
Okay, so that's the theory. But how does it actually work? How do you take all these small things and use them to stop a massive invasion force? Well, you don't do it all at once. You build layers, a killing zone with multiple layers.
Yeah, the idea isn't to land one big knockout punch. It's to bleed them with 1,000 cuts, a relentless series of attacks that starts way before they even get close to the beach.
All right, Layer 1, the Taiwan Strait itself. That 100-mile crossing is where the invasion fleet is most exposed, and the plan is to unleash hell. We're talking swarms of small, fast missile boats doing hit-and-run attacks. At the same time, you've got anti-ship missiles launching from hidden spots on the coast, throw in some submarines and naval mines, and that strait crossing starts to look like a death trap.
And here, this is a perfect example of what we're talking about. See this boat? It's tiny. It's stealthy. It's really hard to hit. But it's armed with incredibly powerful missiles that can take out a much larger warship. Now imagine a whole swarm of these things. That's a huge problem for any navy. It's David versus Goliath, but David has a rocket launcher.
Okay, so let's say some of the invasion force makes it through the strait. What's next? Well, Layer 2 is waiting for them right on the beach. This is where you see all those mobile truck-launched systems. You've got missiles to hit the landing craft, you've got things like HIMARS raining down rockets on the landing zones, you've got mines in the harbors, and air defense shooting down their support. The goal is simple,
and it's brutal. Turn those few landing beaches into an absolute meat grinder.
And this is how they do it. A launcher like this one, it can hide out in a tunnel, maybe in the mountains. During that first big missile attack, it's on a truck, so its mobility is everything. Once the initial chaos is over, it rolls out, fires its payload at the ships trying to land, and then bam, it's gone, already moving to a new hiding spot before the enemy can even think about firing back. That is what survivability looks like.
And this quote really just ties it all together perfectly. The power of this whole idea is being spread out and being mobile. It's simple. You can't kill what you can't find. And by having hundreds of these lethal systems scattered all over, you basically guarantee that enough of them will survive to make any invasion an absolute nightmare, bloody, long, and maybe even a total failure. The point is to make Taiwan completely indigestible.
But, of course, there's a catch. I mean, this all sounds great on paper, right? It seems totally logical. But actually doing it, that's where things get tricky, because it runs up against a huge predictable wall. Tradition. You know, there's this powerful institutional mindset. For generations, military prestige has been tied to the big, shiny, expensive stuff, commanding fighter squadrons, captaining destroyers. So there's real resistance from some senior leaders to move money away from those traditional platforms to these, well, these smaller, less cool, but probably more effective weapons.
And what's the result? A frustratingly slow, kind of hesitant rollout of the whole strategy. I mean, yes, Taiwan is buying some of these systems, but that big shift, that full-on pivot to the Porcupine defense is happening way slower than a lot of experts think it should. And that gap, that implementation gap, is dangerous. It means time and money are still going to the old, vulnerable systems, leaving weaknesses that an attacker could potentially exploit.
Which really brings us to the most important question of all. Is the goal here to win a war, or is it to stop one from ever happening? See, the Porcupine strategy isn't really about winning a fight in the classic sense. It's about making the price of starting that fight so terrifyingly high, so guaranteed to be a disaster, that no one in their right mind would ever try. It's the ultimate deterrent. The real question, though, is whether Taiwan can fully commit to this new way of thinking before the clock runs out.